I want to talk about a film called Dead of Night. Now you might be thinking, hang on a minute, Mike, you've already done a video on Dead of Night. What kind of rip-off shenanigans are you trying to pull here? Well, there are more than one film, if I can actually speak correct English, there is more than one film, and they go back to school. There's more than one film called Dead of Night, and this one was released in 1974, and whereas the previous one I talked about was from 1945 and it was an anthology horror film, there is no connection between the two films. I think it's just that Dead of Night is a sort of saying that really sounds great for a horror film. This one, like I say, was released in 1974, and it was directed by Bob Clark, written by Alan Ormsby, and starring John Marley. And this film is about a young man who dies in Vietnam, and during the Vietnam War, and we see his family receive a letter from the army saying, sending their condolences, alerting them to the fact that their son has died. And then, after all the grief and the outpouring and the blaming of why he was over there, things like that, all of a sudden he turns up at their door as if everything's fine. And it's quite unnerving. The family put it down to the fact that there must have been some sort of admin mistake. Someone else unfortunately has passed away, and their luck is that their son is okay, and they just they don't even investigate it. They just sort of dismiss that the army's already pronounced him dead. And the film then progresses, and it's about this man coming back from Vietnam, fundamentally changed, and trying to fit back into American life. And he tries to do the sort of things that, or at least his family try to get him to do the things that young guys like to do, sort of socialise, meet girls. They try to get him out of this strange, distant behaviour that he has, which is likened to some sort of shell shock. They just put it down to the fact that there is some sort of trauma there from his experiences in Vietnam. However, there's something much more sinister going on, and we realise that as the film progresses. But we know from the very beginning that there's something not right, that this guy shouldn't be alive. And that's what the film's about now. I don't think I'm really ruining it much by saying that it is obviously from a shallow perspective about it's a horror film that involves the undead, but this is a sort of undead that you don't really get anywhere else. It's a man who seems on the surface to be perfectly fine, but he is nonetheless dead. And obviously his family, his friends, no one realises that. They just realise that he's different. It's almost as if he's returned without a soul. Now, it's inferred that he also starts killing people. And you might think, oh well, it's obviously just going to sort of degrade into some sort of schlocky B-movie, but it really doesn't. The film, more than anything else, it is about a family dealing with the impact of war, and it's obviously a rather in-your-face allegory for what's happening in Vietnam, where at the time where people coming back changed, or people just coming back fundamentally changed from their experiences in war. In any war, it really plays out for any war. It doesn't need to be Vietnam. And it's about the family dealing with that. and it's dealing with the fact that their son has been fundamentally changed by the experience. And it's so compelling because of that. It's really compelling because of that. You really, there's a tremendous sense of sadness in this film, because it's almost as if the whatever's happened to him, that it's not his fault, and that the experience has almost turned him into a monster. And sort of questioning sort of who's to blame, you know, are we always responsible for our own actions, regardless of, you know, what experiences we've had that might sort of push us into strange and twisted states of mind. I'm really surprised this film is not more famous than it is. I checked it out primarily because I saw it or mentioned on an episode of the Cinephiles a few years ago. I think it was Eric Cohn that mentioned it, or it might have been Edwin, I don't know, but it was mentioned on the Cinephiles, and I had never heard of it before, so I went and checked it out, and it really blew me away. Around about the same time, I watched a film called Martin, which was a George Romero film from the 70s. It's a vampire film, and in some aspects there's a real connection between those two films, because they both also explore the twisted nature of, you know, sort of teenagers or you know, young people in their sort of late teens or even their early 20s, where they're trying to figure out what they are, who they are, and how easily things can become twisted in people's heads at that age. So yeah, Dead of Night, it is astonishing really, because it takes the approach that not many horror films take, which is that the horror is secondary to what's actually going on. It's really a family drama. It just happens to be that you know, the member of the family, for want of a better word, is a zombie. You know, he's undead. He's something you don't really know what he is, but he's there's that supernatural, unholy aspect to it. And I really wish this film was better known, because it's so compelling, I think, and really effective. It's got an excellent conclusion to it as well, and I really liked some of the effects that were used in the film towards the end. I think some people criticised them, but you know, I really enjoyed them. And again, you look through horror films, and just every now and then someone recommends one to you, and it's something you've never heard of. You've never heard of it, you know, and you consider yourself a big fan of this genre, and then all of a sudden you get an absolute gem. So I'm convinced there must be loads of other horror films out there that are forgotten about, that will find an audience, hopefully. It's just word of mouth, and I think Dead of Night from 1974 is definitely one of those. An incredibly compelling horror film. It's not scary in the conventional sense. It's not. It was a while ago that I watched it, but you know, as far as I remember, it wasn't sort of jump out scares. It was morbid curiosity, and that morbid curiosity was for two things. One was for this family who are absolutely, utterly falling apart, essentially because of Vietnam, because of war. And then there's the morbid curiosity with what this poor guy, who obviously whatever's happened to him is not his fault, but there's a morbid curiosity with who he is, and what he's doing and why he's doing it, and it gets inferred at the end why he's doing what he's doing. And I think when you look at it, you actually have real horror in this film. I know it's a sort of cliche, and people say, "Oh, well, real horror was the Holocaust, or real horror is war." You know, we know that, but it is interesting to have that in a film where you do have what feels sort of closer to the nerve, real horror about this family, and you have. I'm sort of starting to be like a human scale here. When I put my hands it. You have the sort of supernatural horror. I'm just realising you can't actually even see that in the frame. Well, that's good. I just made a reference to me doing this. It didn't make any sense. Anyway, Dead of Night, 1974. Absolutely go and check it out. It's fantastic, and let me know what you guys think about it if you check it out. It can be found. Get what I mean? That's all for now. I'll probably do more videos soon. I can't find the off switch.